After grandmother passed away, I returned to Bay City from my hometown in the countryside, packing up and preparing to get married. But as soon as I arrived at the wedding planning company, just as I was about to book a super luxurious wedding, the staff told me that the groom was already married. Robert Sterling, the eldest son of the wealthiest group, had gotten married 3 months ago. He married Eleanor Harrison, the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis, whom he had grown up with since childhood. I stood outside the Sterling family mansion, frowning. But I was Eleanor Harrison, the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis. The Sterling family's butler wouldn't even let me through the door. Mr. Sterling said, "Who dares impersonate my wife? My wife and I grew up together since we were children. How could I mistake her?" My young cousin Sophie's eyes welled up with tears. "Ellie, what's going on? Why are they saying you're an imposter? Didn't our two families arrange the engagement between Ellie and Robert Sterling when you were children? Weren't we supposed to come back this time to prepare for the wedding?" I shushed her. I had returned to Bay City to prepare for the wedding this time. Originally, I was supposed to wait for my parents to come with me, but they were busy with work, so I came first, thinking I'd start making arrangements as wedding preparations are complicated. But as soon as I got to the wedding planning company, after I had just finished discussing some basic ideas with the head designer, her face instantly changed when she saw the photo of the groom-to-be on my phone. "Miss Harrison, isn't this Mr. Sterling?" "That's right, he's my fiancé." The designer's face looked like she'd tasted something bitter. She frowned and said, "But Mr. Sterling got married 3 months ago. Our company even planned the wedding." Ever since grandmother's health started to decline, I had returned to my hometown to take care of her, become a full-time caregiver for my grandmother. I hadn't been back to Bay City in 5 years. It wasn't until she passed away that Mom called me back, telling me to get ready for the arranged marriage with the Sterling family. After all, it was a childhood engagement. If we delayed any longer, we'd both be nearing 30. After learning the truth, I went to the Sterling residence immediately to confront them, but I didn't expect to be met with this scene. The arrogance of the Sterling family members and Robert Sterling's dismissiveness made me sneer. "Wouldn't mistake her? You better not have mistaken her." I took my cousin and shopped at Bay City's major high-end stores, and sent all the bills to the Sterling mansion. After all, the name signed on the bills was Eleanor Harrison, the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis. Before noon, the area outside the company headquarters was crowded with people. Representatives from Bay City's major luxury brands, sent to deliver goods and settle accounts, were all packed at the entrance. "Mr. Sterling, this is Mrs. Sterling's name. You can't avoid payment." That's right, who doesn't know Mrs. Sterling's name? Could someone possibly dare to impersonate her? "Mr. Sterling, your wife spent a total of $1 million at our store. Please settle the bill." "Mr. Sterling, if you're short on cash, why don't you ask Mrs. Sterling to come by next month? Return that black pearl necklace to us first. Another lady likes it and is waiting for it." "That's $600,000. Exactly. If you don't have money, don't let Mrs. Sterling go shopping everywhere." What kind of behavior is buying things and not paying? Right. "We let your wife sign and take the items because we figured Mr. Sterling is also a well-known figure in Bay City and surely wouldn't avoid payment." I sat in a coffee shop watching the spectacle, seeing Robert Sterling's sweat beading on his brow from a distance, and frowning at the crowd packed at the entrance. I sipped my coffee and smiled slightly. "Didn't you marry Eleanor Harrison? Then bear the consequences of that name." Just as things were buzzing, a woman walked out from inside the company entrance. She was wearing designer clothes, yet so frail she looked like a gust of wind could blow her over. Her eyes were red as she looked at Robert Sterling. "Robert, what's going on?" The woman who came out was Robert Sterling's current wife, the woman the staff at the Sterling residence called Eleanor Harrison. She looked at the bills in the hands of the store staff and the signatures on them. She shook her head and said to them, "I didn't sign this, someone impersonated me." The store staff wouldn't back down. "You say you didn't sign it and we should just believe that?" She said confidently, "Because I grew up abroad and can only speak Chinese, not write it. This handwriting isn't mine." Robert Sterling wanted to stop her words, but it was too late. The crowd burst into an uproar. "The esteemed daughter of the mayor of Metropolis can't write Chinese? Didn't they say recently that she wrote a piece of calligraphy that was auctioned at a charity gala? How could she not be able to write? Mrs. Sterling will say anything to avoid payment." Robert Sterling explained, "My wife was misunderstood in her haste to explain. It's just that her hand is injured recently and she can't write. She grew up immersed in the Harrison family's traditions and has beautiful elegant script. How could she not be able to write? Then just let Mrs. Sterling write her name, and let everyone see if it matches the signatures on the bills." I stepped forward from behind the crowd, smiling at him. Mr. Sterling, isn't that right? Wouldn't that make everything clear at a glance? Everyone would be convinced. The mayor's wife is a renowned calligrapher, and Mrs. Harrison comes from a family of scholars. Their daughter, writing at 3, winning national calligraphy awards by 5, everyone knows T.S. Everyone nodded, right. Just let Mrs. Sterling write her name, let everyone see. Robert Sterling glared intently at me. Who are you? What concern is this of yours? This is the Sterling family's private matter. Leave immediately. I stepped back. I'm just standing up for the truth for everyone. Can't I even speak the truth? Mrs. Sterling hid behind Robert Sterling. Robert, I can't write. After hesitating, she remembered Robert Sterling's words. I injured my right hand and can't write. I smiled. Eleanor Harrison practiced calligraphy with both hands since childhood. If her right hand is injured, she can write with her left hand just as well. Please, Mrs. Sterling, don't be shy. Everyone will surely recognize the characters written with your left hand too. Right, surely both your hands aren't injured. I saw you carrying something when you came out just now. The crowd started to jeer. Tears welled up in Mrs. Sterling's eyes. I stepped forward. Sophie, bring the pen and paper. Mrs. Sterling, please proceed. I once bought a piece of Eleanor Harrison's writing at an auction. This is Mrs. Sterling's handwriting. Don't mistake it later. I pulled out a piece of writing from my bag. I had just written this in the coffee shop, and it came in handy. This handwriting was identical to the handwriting on all the sales receipts. The calligraphy piece was passed around, and everyone started staring at Mrs. Sterling. Mrs. Sterling, please begin. Robert Sterling's face darkened, and he only directed his anger at me. Who are you? Do you know where you are, coming here to cause trouble? This doesn't concern you, leave immediately. Sophie blocked the way and shouted loudly, what are you doing, Robert Sterling? My cousin is just standing up for the truth. Is Mr. Sterling making things difficult for my cousin because he wants to avoid payment? Is there any justice in this world? The crowd swarmed forward, shielding me behind them. That's Reg. HT, pay up. Trying to find an excuse to avoid payment? See you in court. Mrs. Sterling shouted loudly, stop arguing, I'll write it. A staff member brought out pen and paper. She scrawled the name Eleanor. It was really ugly. Everyone looked at her writing, then at the calligraphy piece, looking confused. Is this the same person's writing? I sneered. Mrs. Sterling will do anything to avoid payment. Who are you trying to fool by writing like this? Unless Mrs. Sterling isn't Eleanor Harrison, then who is she? Mrs. Sterling looked shocked, stumbled back a few steps, and shrieked, nonsense. If I'm not Eleanor Harrison, who is? I am the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis, Robert Sterling's wife. Who are you, showing up at the company headquarters spouting nonsense? Someone, get her out of here before she dirties our property. The security guards rushed out like wolves to chase me away. Sophie shielded me and was roughly pushed down. Robert Sterling said angrily from the side, showing up at the company with people for no reason. I want to see what your motive is. Mrs. Sterling rushed over with the security guards and grabbed my mask, pulling it off. Seeing my face, a flicker of jealousy flashed in her eyes. Sophie was grabbed by several security guards and shouted loudly, let go of my cousin. Do you know who my cousin is? When my uncle arrives in Bay City, he won't let you get away with this. Mrs. Sterling slapped Sophie across the face. You little wretch, you don't deserve to speak in front of me. I wanted to protect Sophie but was held back. Anger surged through me. Mrs. Sterling, wasn't the Harrison family always known for being low-key and modest? Eleanor Harrison was said to be well-mannered and reasonable. Is this what you call unreasonable, resorting to violence at the drop of a hat? A smile touched Mrs. Sterling's lips, mixed with triumph. I am Robert Sterling's wife. And who are you? When the time comes, I'll have a serious talk with your parents about how they raised you, whether you have any manners at all. Now I'm going to discipline you on behalf of your parents. Saying that, she stepped forward. I tried to dodge, but was pinned back by a security guard. The next second, a harsh slap landed on my face. My face immediately swelled up. My parents had never laid a finger on me my entire life, yet I was hit by this imposter? Sophie's eyes turned red with anger. Mrs. Sterling, do you have any idea who you just hit? You'll pay for this. She pressed closer and said in a low voice, pay? You talk big, don't you? What can you do to me if I slash your mouth open right now? I quickly dodged away and shouted loudly, you are the fake Eleanor Harrison, I am the real one. I'm calling the police right now. The crowd burst into an uproar. Robert Sterling had been standing by, watching. Hearing my words, his expression changed, and he pulled Mrs. Sterling back. I quickly broke free from the security guard's grasp and stepped back a few steps. Mr. Sterling, you had a childhood engagement to Eleanor Harrison, yet 3 months ago you married this woman, recognizing her as Eleanor Harrison. I ask you, when you registered your marriage, was the name on the marriage certificate Eleanor Harrison? Robert Sterling's face turned pale, and he took another step back. Mrs. Sterling stepped forward to block him. My Robert and I grew up together since childhood. What concern is this of yours? I let out a cold laugh and pulled out my ID card. Not only did it have my ID photo, but most importantly, it clearly stated the name Eleanor Harrison. I am going to find a lawyer and sue you for impersonation, using my identity for fame and fortune to marry into a wealthy family. The onlookers were in an uproar. No wonder Mrs. Sterling's writing was so ugly. I was wondering how someone who supposedly grew up here couldn't be able to write. And when they got married, it seemed the Harrison family didn't show up. People thought it was strange at the time. The wedding was very modest back then. I heard they didn't invite anyone except a few friends. I was wondering why the son of the wealthiest family would have such a low-key wedding. Mrs. Sterling dabbed at her tears with a scarf, her eyes brimming. The arranged marriage between the Harrison and Sterling families. I didn't want it to be too high profile and affect my father's reputation. I never expected it would now become a handle for you to criticize me. Anyway, no matter what I say, you won't believe me. You'll only believe this random person who appeared out of nowhere. Or are you secretly in love with my Robert, trying to ruin my reputation so I'll leave empty-handed? Young lady, do you know how important a woman's reputation is? Now no one will believe anything I say. It seems the only way to prove my innocence is to die. Saying that, she lunged towards the glass door beside her. Everyone nearby cried out in alarm. Robert, what are you doing? Doing something so foolish because of some random person who appeared out of nowhere. Robert Sterling grabbed and held her tightly. Mrs. Sterling clung to him, crying uncontrollably. Robert Sterling was furious and roared, "Guards! Grab this woman who's spreading rumors and ruining Ellie's reputation. I want to see how dare she." Sophie desperately broke free from the security guards, stood firmly in front of me, and was knocked down by a blow from two burly security guards. Another pinned her down and slapped her face repeatedly. Where did this crazy woman come from? How dare she cause trouble at the Sterling residence? Two other security guards came forward to grab me. I held a pen to my neck. Anyone who dares touch me. I am the real Eleanor Harrison. If anything happens to me today, my father will return in 3 days and he will not let you get away with it. The security guards wanted to grab me, but then seeing the blade in my hand, they were afraid of causing a death. They only looked back to Robert Sterling for instructions. Robert Sterling's face was livid with rage. If I don't teach you a lesson today, people will think Robert Sterling is easy to bully. You've completely ruined my wife's reputation. What are you waiting for? Grab her. If anything happens, I'll take full responsibility. Several people swarmed forward and grabbed me. The pen cut my neck, and blood started to seep out. The security guards grabbed my hands and cursed. How dare a young woman like you act so wildly outside the Sterling residence? My pen fell to the ground with a clatter. My hand was almost twisted off by their brute force. I struggled desperately. Robert Sterling, if you dare harm a single hair on my head, my father won't let you off when he comes to Bay City. I didn't slander her, she impersonated me. A cruel hint of a smile played on Robert Sterling's lips. We'll see if your father gets here in time to save you. Slap her a few times, hit her hard. See if she dares to spread rumors and cause trouble again. Oh, that's too much. How can you slap a young girl in public? Quickly, record this and post it online. Let people see how the Sterling family disregards the law. What are you waiting for? Call the police. This young girl looks delicate, she's going to suffer now. I struggled desperately but it was of no use, held tightly by two security guards. Hit her. Slap, slap. Several slaps landed on my face. My face immediately turned red and swelled up. Sophie shouted with a pale face from the side, "Don't hit my cousin." My mouth was covered. Woo-woo, I couldn't form any coherent words. Robert Sterling stared intently at me. I must teach you a lesson today. Hit her. The two security guards raised their hands, ready to slap my face. I gritted my teeth, preparing to endure the blows, when suddenly, a commanding voice came from a distance. Stop. Let's see who dares took my daughter. I turned around, and tears instantly streamed down my face. Dad. My parents had finally arrived in Bay City. The bodyguards accompanying him quickly stepped forward and pushed away the people holding me. I immediately threw myself into Mom's arms, sobbing silently. She looked at my face, heartbroken. Who did this? Dad was still wearing the suit from his meeting. Behind him were bodyguards and some officials from Bay City. The people nearby quickly moved aside, clearing a path. Dad walked up to Robert Sterling and said in a deep voice, "Mr. Sterling is truly impressive. In broad daylight, in front of everyone, you hit and curse citizens as you please." Robert Sterling was covered in cold sweat. His legs felt weak under my father's pressure. Dad's eyes were like burning coals. Looking past him, he saw Mrs. Sterling behind him. "I heard Mr. Sterling got married 3 months ago, and he married my daughter?" I had no idea. I didn't know I had a long-lost daughter. The onlookers, enjoying the spectacle, started to jeer from the side. "Mr. Harrison, the one hiding behind Mr. Sterling, that's his wife, she claims to be your daughter." Mom stepped forward and pointed at Mrs. Sterling behind him. "Mrs. Sterling, may I ask you a couple of questions? You claim to be Eleanor Harrison, the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis. Now that your parents are here, why aren't you stepping forward?" The onlookers, impersonating the mayor's daughter to defraud people, and for millions? That's a serious crime. Robert Sterling is too audacious. How can someone impersonate another person to get married these days? It's ridiculous. Mrs. Sterling's legs were shaking like a sieve. "Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Harrison." Mom pressed closer. "Mrs. Sterling, do you claim to be Eleanor Harrison? Or are you a daughter someone secretly had outside of marriage, without my knowledge?" She finished by giving Dad a glare. Hearing this, Dad's face instantly darkened. He walked to Mom's side and pointed at Mrs. Sterling, scolding, "Absurd. My reputation is being ruined by scoundrels like you. I'm calling the police, having her arrested, and finding out what's going on." Robert Sterling and Mrs. Sterling were already deathly pale. "Mr. Harrison, it's a misunderstanding. It's definitely a misunderstanding." Dad let out a cold snort. "A misunderstanding? I arrived in Bay City just a bit late, and my daughter is being bullied like this. I don't even know what kind of misunderstanding this could be." I let out a cold snort. Who in Bay City doesn't know that Mr. Sterling married Eleanor Harrison, the daughter of the mayor of Metropolis? I am an innocent young woman, and somehow, out of the blue, I've become a married person. I wasn't even in Bay City, but my reputation has been all but destroyed. Mrs. Sterling knelt on the ground, only shrinking behind Robert Sterling and crying softly, "Robert, woo-woo, I don't want to go to the police station. What do we do now? It's not my fault." Dad was furious. "You dare slander Arthur Harrison's daughter like this? Robert Sterling, if you dare to do it, do you dare to admit it?" Hearing this, Robert Sterling didn't care about anything else. He shoved Mrs. Sterling aside. Mrs. Sterling yelped as she hit the glass door. "Mr. Harrison, no, Mr. Harrison, I was tricked by her too. I was also kept in the dark." Robert Sterling was only busy admitting his mistake. "Mr. Harrison, I was also deceived. I really didn't know. She showed up with an ID card, saying she'd argued with her family and had nowhere to go. I was young and naive. The ID looked real, so I believed her. She explained the whole story of the engagement clearly. I kept the promise, acknowledged the marriage arrangement, and married her." My face flushed, and I spat. How shameless. Who gets married just by showing an ID card? Where was the proper identification/birth certificate? Is this something you can just accept because someone faked a document? Robert Sterling looked at me, putting on what he thought was his best expression. His eyes held deep affection. "It's truly because I was always thinking about the arranged marriage with the Harrison family. She came to my door, crying pitifully. I was always thinking of Eleanor Harrison, so how could I suspect anything? Eleanor Harrison, please forgive me this time. It was so disgusting I almost threw up my dinner from the night before." Hearing him say that, Mrs. Sterling scrambled up from the ground and lunged at him, crying out, "Robert, what are you saying? How can you say I tricked you?" Robert Sterling stood aside, looking at Dad, his face full of shame and resentment. "Mr. Harrison, you must believe me, this was absolutely not the Sterling family's intention. This wretch is just a gold digger who tricked us. She deceived our family terribly, we must catch her and teach her a good lesson." Mrs. Sterling still didn't realize the seriousness of the situation, just crying and acting spoiled. "Robert, what are you saying? Are you trying to divorce me and marry Eleanor Harrison instead?" Robert Sterling threw her hand off. "The one I had a childhood engagement with was Eleanor Harrison. You are an imposter. Since you are not Eleanor Harrison, the marriage is naturally invalid." Mrs. Sterling tugged at his sleeve. "Robert, you said you'd be good to Sarah for life. Have you forgotten everything you said?" Robert Sterling slapped her across the face. "Shameless. When did I ever say that to you?" Sarah Lynn collapsed onto the ground, couldn't understand how everything had changed so suddenly. Robert himself had told her to marry into the family, with a romantic proposal and an exquisite wedding. Now he was saying it was invalid. Her dream was shattered before her eyes. Dad waved his hand. Guards, take them all to the police station. I must find out exactly who dared to impersonate my daughter and marry in her place. Bo. Guards swarmed forward, and Sarah Lynn was taken away by the bodyguards. Robert Sterling still stood to the side, only looking at Dad. Dad, I was misled by that woman and rushed into marriage. I'm sorry to Ellie. Sophie spat. I still remember how you and that woman bullied my cousin just now. Dad? Ellie? Do you think you're worthy? Stop trying to cling to my cousin. Mom took my hand and looked up at him. Well, Robert Sterling, the Sterling family's values and upbringing are truly unsuitable for my daughter. Let's cancel this marriage. I've already called your mother. It's because she's far away abroad, detached from affairs, that such an absurd thing happened. When she returns, I'll have words with her, naturally. Robert Sterling said in a panic, Auntie, it's all my fault. I'm sorry to Eleanor Harrison. Please give me another chance. I promise I'll treat Eleanor Harrison well. Dad looked at him with cold eyes, a look of disdain on his face. Absolutely not, Mr. Sterling. Don't mention this marriage arrangement again. You, a man who is already married, still dare to try and marry up to my daughter. Humph. This farce caused a huge stir, and in just half a day, the news that Robert Sterling, the eldest son of the Sterling Group, married a fake daughter of the mayor of Metropolis spread across the internet. Although the search terms with our family's name couldn't make headlines, and their names were nowhere to be found in official reports, forums, and social media were buzzing with the news. I stayed temporarily with my parents at our house in Bay City. Early the next morning, we saw a commotion in the courtyard. Robert Sterling's mother, who had rushed back from abroad, bringing a large procession of gifts, escorted Robert Sterling into the Harrison residence. As I came downstairs, I saw Robert Sterling kneeling in the center of the living room on the first floor. Mrs. Sterling scolded him with a stern face. I taught you since you were young to be sensible and know when to advance and retreat. I never expected you to do something like this, secretly marrying a fake daughter-in-law. You've completely disgraced the Sterling family. Whatever the Harrison family decides to do with you, I have no complaints. It's only because I didn't discipline you properly that you made such a mistake. Since your father passed away, I've been recuperating abroad, never interfering in your affairs. I thought you had potential, but I never expected you to develop such twisted ideas. I have failed the Sterling family and your father. You will kneel here and reflect seriously on your mistakes. Mrs. Sterling had never been in very good health. Seeing how angry she was, I quickly went forward to greet her. Hello, Auntie. I can't possibly marry someone like Robert Sterling. Please decide, Auntie, and cancel this marriage. Mom wiped away tears. Sister, you don't know how much Ellie suffered. The first thing she did when she returned to Bay City was go to the wedding planning company to arrange the wedding, but then received this news like a bolt from the blue. Now it's become public knowledge. How can Ellie live like this? Mrs. Sterling handed over a box containing a stock transfer agreement. This was originally a gift I prepared for Ellie. Now consider it her dowry for the future. From now on, she will be like a daughter to me. Hearing this, Robert Sterling's face immediately changed. He stepped forward and said, Mom, this marriage was arranged by Dad when he was alive. How can it be easily annulled? Mrs. Sterling reprimanded him loudly. After doing something like this, you still have the nerve to mention your father? I haven't even asked you about Sarah Lynn. Robert Sterling stammered. He doesn't need to say it. I've already had someone look at Sarah Lynn's statement. Dad just returned from a meeting, still in his suit. It turned out Sarah Lynn was a classmate he met abroad years ago. Their relationship was just a casual fling. But a year ago, she suddenly returned to the country, saying she was burdened with loan sharks and targeted by gangsters. With nowhere else to turn, she went to Robert Sterling. They secretly started living together as a couple at the Sterling residence. Until 3 months ago, Sarah Lynn got pregnant and insisted Robert Sterling give her a legitimate status. That's when he came up with a bad idea. He staged a fake wedding. Sarah Lynn cried and made a fuss, saying if Robert Sterling didn't marry her, she would go on a live stream and accuse him of seducing and abandoning her. Although Robert Sterling had a childhood engagement, he was used to being a playboy and didn't think having a wedding without registering it wasn't a big deal. He simply used the name of the childhood engagement, saying he was marrying the Harrison family's daughter, so he wouldn't be criticized. Who knows, maybe after it was a done deal, the Harrison family, for the sake of their father's friendship, would be willing to accept Sarah Lynn as a goddaughter? He took Sarah to a few charity galas and had someone write some calligraphy pieces, creating the image of a talented woman. Others didn't dare suspect much. So the two of them went ahead and got married. Outsiders only knew that Eleanor Harrison had returned to Bay City first, chosen a wedding date, and gotten married. Robert Sterling also gained many benefits by using the identity of the mayor of Metropolis's son-in-law. His life was going smoothly, so naturally, he forgot that the truth will always come out. Unexpectedly, Dad suddenly came to Bay City for an inspection, and I returned to Bay City early, completely ruining his plans and shattering his dream. Under the decisive actions of both families' elders, the arranged marriage between the Harrison and Sterling families was cancelled. Mrs. Sterling looked at Robert Sterling with disappointment. That Sarah Lynn, who knows where she came from, what are you going to do about her? You've completely disgraced the Sterling family. Our daughter-in-law absolutely cannot be someone like that. Tell everyone she's just a distant cousin visiting, and arrange separate housing for her to move out. The Sterling family's scandal caused too much of a stir. The stock prices of the Sterling Group fluctuated wildly for several days, making the shareholders very dissatisfied with him. They said if he couldn't calm the situation, they would replace him. Mrs. Sterling stepped in and talked with some old shareholders several times, barely managing to stabilize the situation. Because the Sterling family's affair was so disgraceful, the influential circles in Bay City immediately distanced themselves, opportunistically avoiding the scandal. Sarah Lynn was released. She was originally facing a prison sentence, but Robert Sterling used his connections / pulled some strings for her, and she was ultimately acquitted. But after Sarah Lynn returned to the Sterling residence, she wouldn't settle down, throwing tantrums and making threats, demanding Robert Sterling hold another wedding and marry her legitimately. Mrs. Sterling said that for the sake of the child, she and the child could be provided for. But if she wanted to marry into the Sterling family, it would be over my dead body. Sarah Lynn watched her status change from Robert Sterling's wife to a secret mistress, and she absolutely refused to accept it. She constantly pestered Robert Sterling at the Sterling residence, crying and making a scene. She came clutching her stomach and crying in front of Robert Sterling, "You married me into this family. How can you deny it? I don't care. Go register our marriage with me right now, or I'll go on live stream and expose all your shameful secrets. You thought I served you well, and heard Eleanor Harrison was strong-willed and difficult to deal with, so you developed such twisted ideas. You didn't want to give up this influential family connection, yet you didn't want to marry the Harrison daughter either. Wanting to have your cake and eat it too, you treated everyone else like fools to be manipulated. You think you can have everything your way? You get all the glory, but when something goes wrong, I have to bear the burden? Robert Sterling, you wish." Robert Sterling, however, was now planning something else. Every day, he had people send things to our house, expensive flowers, designer clothes, luxury jewelry, a dazzling array, delivered to the Harrison family house day after day. Until Sophie saw them and came back fuming, slamming the table in anger. "The Sterling family is truly shameless. Robert Sterling keeps sending things to my cousin every day. He's even hinting on social media accounts that he and my cousin are childhood sweethearts, and that Sarah Lynn tricked him. He knows he was wrong and wants to rekindle the relationship with my cousin and have a wedding of the century. And the onlookers/gossips are even praising him as a man of passion. Humph, how shameless. I had someone load all the items into a car and send them back to the Sterling mansion, delivered to Mrs. Sterling, and sent a message: since the arranged marriage is cancelled, the two families no longer need to have any dealings from now on." Sarah Lynn's eyes turned red with jealousy seeing these things. One day, Sarah Lynn, heavily pregnant, blocked me at a restaurant I frequently visited. She looked at me with red eyes. "Please, Eleanor Harrison, give me a way out. Robert said this whole thing started because of me, and if I can't get Eleanor Harrison to forgive him, he won't allow me into the Sterling residence anymore." I stepped back, interrupting her words. "Mrs. Sterling, you should be careful what you say. Robert Sterling and I have cancelled the arranged marriage. We have nothing to do with each other. What are you asking me for?" Tears streamed down her face. "Robert said the person he has always loved is Eleanor Harrison. It was all because I tricked him with a fake ID card. If Eleanor Harrison doesn't forgive him and isn't willing to marry him, I'll kneel here until she does." Saying that, she dropped to her knees in front of me with a thump. Sophie stood in front of me. "Mrs. Sterling, have you no shame? You impersonated my cousin and married Robert Sterling. Now you're trying to force my cousin to marry Robert Sterling. You may be shameless, but others are not. Do you think kneeling here will threaten my cousin? I ignored her and turned to leave the private dining room. As I reached the ground floor, I heard Sarah Lynn crying piteously behind me. Eleanor Harrison, can't you forgive Robert just once, for the sake of his deep affection for you? To err is human, who can be without fault? Her words made everyone in the corridor look over. My face flushed with embarrassment. Sophie retorted sharply, Mrs. Sterling, the arranged marriage between the Harrison and Sterling families was cancelled a long time ago. You're pregnant with a child. Instead of thinking about marrying into a wealthy family soon and giving the child a legitimate status, why are you blocking the way here and slandering my cousin? Could this be Mr. Sterling's idea? If he can't marry my cousin, he'll harass her for the rest of her life? My face was pale, and my voice was choked with tears. How can there be such a shameless person like Robert Sterling in this world? Not only did he ruin my reputation, but he also wants me to suffer for the rest of my life. Then I swayed and pretended to collapse onto Sophie. Sophie screamed, "Ah, quickly call 911. My cousin is having a heart attack from anger." In an instant, the news that Robert Sterling had his mistress pressure Eleanor Harrison at a restaurant and made her faint spread throughout Bay City's influential circles. Dad immediately had someone go to the Sterling group. Regardless of their board meeting, in front of all the Shaw Reholders, he recounted my grievances one by one. He slammed the table and told Robert Sterling that from this day forward, the two families would have absolutely no relationship. I heard Mrs. Sterling gathered photos of eligible young women from prominent families in Bay City overnight to arrange blind dates for Robert Sterling. 2 months later, the Sterling family got engaged to the daughter of another group. Catherine Davis was very beautiful. More importantly, she was feisty. In front of her, Sarah Lynn could only be submissive. I saw Sarah Lynn and Robert Sterling again at a shopping mall I often visited. Robert Sterling was with her, shopping for clothes. Presumably, since Catherine Davis hadn't officially married in yet, no one was controlling Sarah Lynn, this secret mistress. Sarah Lynn leaned weakly against Robert Sterling, pouting and asking to buy the bag across the aisle. Seeing me walk in, she raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, "Oh, it's Eleanor Harrison." "Oh, Eleanor Harrison, you'll be nearing 30 in a few years, won't you? I heard you still haven't found a boyfriend. Are you regretting your decision? Too bad Robert is engaged. Eleanor Harrison, if you want to marry into the Sterling family, you can't. You can only be a mistress." "Oh my, won't you have to call me sister then?" I looked at her with cold eyes. "Sarah Lynn, you need to know that as long as I don't forgive you, the charge of impersonation can still land you in prison for a long time." Sarah Lynn's face turned pale, and she quickly shut her mouth. I took Sophie to the clothing store across the way. I happened to see Catherine Davis trying on clothes inside. I smiled, sat down gently, pretending not to know her, and only spoke to Sophie, bumping into Robert Sterling even when just shopping for clothes. How unlucky. That Sarah Lynn is too arrogant. Robert Sterling likes her so much. I truly worry for his future wife. How pathetic. After all, who can tolerate their husband keeping a mistress outside? And she's still pregnant. Who knows how much trouble she'll cause. Catherine Davis stood stiffly, hearing my words. I hoped hearing what I said would make her reconsider this marriage. I picked out a dress for Sophie and paid for it. I hadn't gone far when I saw Catherine Davis rush into the luxury store across the way. Soon after, several people stumbled out, fighting. Catherine Davis pointed at Sarah Lynn and told her bodyguards to go get her, bash that vixen's mouth in. Teach her a good lesson. I'm the future Mrs. Sterling. How dare she speak such filth? Hit her. See if she dares to be arrogant again. Sarah Lynn shrieked, covering her face and trying to hide. "Miss Davis, you're not married into the Sterling family yet. How can you just hit people recklessly? You're a lady from a prominent family, yet you resort to violence at the drop of a hat. Don't you know Robert hates vulgar women like you the most? I'm carrying the Sterling family's eldest son. How dare you touch me?" Hearing this, Miss Davis's eyes turned even redder with anger. She gave a look, and several bodyguards immediately surrounded her. In the ensuing chaos, only Sarah Lynn's scream was heard, "Robert, help! My stomach, my baby, help!" Robert Sterling tried to stop them from the side, but couldn't intervene. By the time the Sterling family's people pulled them apart, Sarah Lynn was already lying on the ground, pale-faced, clutching her stomach and crying in pain. Sarah Lynn's personal assistant shrieked, "Ah, there's blood on the ground." Everyone was shocked. Robert Sterling scooped up Sarah Lynn, quickly, to the hospital. Sarah Lynn had a miscarriage. Because she was pushed and hit in the abdomen, she lost the baby. Sarah Lynn was devastated and cried hysterically at home. The Davis family also knew they were in the wrong, but their daughter wasn't married into the Sterling family yet, and it was unreasonable for Robert Sterling's mistress to have a child first. The Davis family brought a collaboration proposal as an apology to the Sterling family. The Sterling family could only accept it. After all, it was already good that Robert Sterling could still have an arranged marriage with a family of equal status. Although Miss Davis was spoiled and somewhat unruly, she had the Davis family behind her. Could they possibly cancel the arranged marriage for the sake of a mistress? In the end, Robert Sterling could only tell Sarah Lynn to grin and bear it. After all, she didn't have a legitimate status. Miss Davis found out Sarah Lynn was still living at the Sterling residence and was so angry she smashed everything on the floor at home. I heard this news and couldn't stop laughing. Catherine Davis, the eldest daughter of the Davis family, was notoriously difficult to deal with. How could she possibly be happy about Robert Sterling having a mistress? There would definitely be drama later on. The day Robert Sterling married Catherine Davis, right after he accompanied her into the bridal suite, someone came to knock on the door. Robert, Miss Sarah says her stomach hurts and she needs you to see her. She's in a lot of pain and keeps crying. Hearing this, Robert Sterling immediately let go of Catherine Davis, whom he was holding affectionately. Without a word, he rushed straight to Sarah Lynn's room, leaving Catherine Davis in the bedroom, her face dark and fierce. Catherine Davis gritted her teeth and called her personal assistant nearby. Sarah Lynn is still living in this house? The personal assistant stammered, unable to give a clear explanation. She had someone lead the way to Sarah Lynn's quarters. As soon as she entered the guest house in the back, she heard a burst of sweet laughter from inside. Robert can only touch me. Sarah will have a whole soccer team of babies for Robert. Until I'm pregnant, you're not allowed to touch that woman. You're not allowed to share a room with her, not allowed to look at her anyway. For the next few days, you're only allowed to be with me. The light projected their silhouettes onto the window, showing Sarah Lynn, who had already changed into skimpy lingerie, sitting on Robert Sterling's lap and acting coy. Robert Sterling coaxed her, "Okay, my darling, I only love you." As for Catherine Davis, who in Bay City doesn't know she's been unable to get married? It's good enough that she can marry into the Sterling family. What right does she have to say anything about me? My babies will only come from your belly, okay? The two of them were wrapped up in a passionate embrace inside. Sarah Lynn said with a coy laugh, "Robert promised back then that if I had a son, he would divorce Catherine Davis and marry me." Robert Sterling laughed, "Of course." Catherine Davis's eyes turned red with anger. She gave a loud roar, "Break down the door." Several bodyguards rushed forward and kicked the door open. In the room, Sarah Lynn was drinking red wine and feeding it to Robert Sterling mouth to mouth, startled when people rushed in and shrieked, "What are you doing?" Robert Sterling wasn't much better off. He had drunk a lot before coming to Sarah Lynn's room and was half drunk and powerless. He just slammed the table and roared, "Are you trying to rebel?" Catherine Davis walked in and looked at them. "Robert, tonight is our wedding night. Sarah Lynn lied about a stomachache to lure you here. I had someone prepare a concoction. Guards, make Sarah Lynn drink it." Sarah Lynn backed away. "What kind of concoction? I won't drink it." Catherine Davis came prepared, she had no choice but to drink it. Several bodyguards rushed forward, pinned Sarah Lynn down, and directly poured the entire bowl of concoction into her mouth, not leaving a single drop. Then they covered her mouth, forcing her to swallow all of it. Robert Sterling had never seen a scene like this. He roared angrily, "Catherine Davis, what do you think you're doing?" Catherine D. Avis looked at him, "You married me, but secretly kept this wretch at home. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? This concoction is specially made for her. You don't want to have children with me, yet you want to marry me into the family. What do you think you are? I might as well tell you today. Either you divorce me right now, or she will never be able to have children again." Catherine Davis looked at Sarah Lynn as if she were looking at a dead person. "Sarah Lynn, you are too greedy. What you just drank is a concoction that will make it impossible for you to have children again in the future. This is my warning to you. You're just a mistress. What do you think you are, daring to compete with me?" Robert Sterling was both shocked and angry. Sarah Lynn tried to vomit the concoction, but she had been held down tightly by the bodyguards just now, and she had swallowed all the concoction. She couldn't throw it up. Catherine Davis wasn't afraid of what Robert Sterling might do to her. The Sterling family's reputation was already ruined. Even divorcing right after registering the marriage wouldn't affect her family's stock prices. She turned and walked out of the small courtyard, returning to her own villa. The fight had just begun. Unexpectedly, the next day, the Sterling family called an ambulance early in the morning and sent Sarah Lynn to the hospital. It turned out Sarah Lynn had just had a miscarriage, and the dose of concoction Catherine Davis gave her was too large. This caused Sarah Lynn, whose body hadn't recovered yet, to hemorrhage heavily. She was taken straight to the ER at the hospital. Robert Sterling was sleeping in her room, but because he was drunk, he remained passed out drunk. When he woke up in the morning, he found himself lying in a pool of blood. Sarah Lynn was covered in blood below the waist. He was scared to death and still in shock. The personal assistant went to find Mrs. Sterling. Unexpectedly, after they held the wedding, Mrs. Sterling immediately took a plane abroad. She left a letter saying she would settle abroad and would not return to the Sterling residence, and they didn't need to look for her again. When the police arrived, Robert Sterling was the first suspect, and Catherine Davis was also involved. Both faced serious charges. For a time, the Sterling and Davis family stock prices fluctuated wildly. But the Davis family had capable leaders who were now only focused on how to get Catherine Davis out. The Sterling family, however, was not so fortunate. The Sterling Group immediately held a board meeting and directly sidelined Robert Sterling. A new chairman was appointed. Robert Sterling's status plummeted and never recovered. After Sarah Lynn was discharged from the hospital, she was physically fine, but she would spend the rest of her life in a care facility. How could she be unwilling to accept it? She directly had someone trick Robert Sterling into coming to her and dragged him as she jumped down from the 30th floor. While the news caused a huge stir on social media platforms, I was just boarding a plane to pursue a PhD abroad. When Sophie came to see me off, she sighed a few times. Who could have imagined that a childhood engagement would end up like this?